If someone had told me my wedding day would start with flowers, music, and smiles, and end with an empty aisle, I would have called it a nightmare. I can't do this anymore. It's okay, I'm here. My wedding day turned into hell, when the groom ran away and the one who took me away was a stranger woman. The shattered wedding day. The sound of the organ echoed slowly through the sacred space of St. Aurelia's Chapel in Harborview, North Haven State. Each note wove itself like threads, forming a veil, both solemn and heavy. Sunlight streamed through stained glass, casting radiant colors onto the old tiled floor. The fragrance of candles mingled with the scent of white liz and red roses, so sweet it made one dizzy. Iris Caldwell stepped slowly down the red-carpeted aisle. Her ivory wedding gown embraced her slender frame, its long train flowing like a shimmering stream beneath the chandeliers. With every step the veil brushed softly against the stone floor, her delicate heels striking sharp echoes through the vast hall. Hundreds of eyes followed her, some curious, some admiring, and some whispering behind folding fans with a hint of scrutiny. Iris felt every breath around her turn into something distant. Her heart beat fast, not from anticipation of marriage, but from an unease creeping into her very flesh. At the end of the aisle before the finely carved wooden altar, the priest was ready. Beside him, the groom's chair remained empty. Iris stopped, clutching the bouquet of white liz with trembling hands. A strange smile lingered on her lips, like a mask. She searched for Nathaniel Grant, the groom, heir to a powerful banking family. Yet, in the rows of the groom's side, she saw only unfamiliar, cold faces. No sign of him. Whispers rippled outward like a wave. Where is he? Could it be he ran away? Oh God, what a scandal. Each murmur struck Iris's mind as if shouted aloud. Her ears rang. The lily's fragrance turned suffocating, acrid, choking her chest. The bouquet grew heavy like a chain of ice in her hands. In the front row, her mother Margaret Caldwell clenched her lace gloves, her gaze cold yet anxious. Her father, Edward, stared down at the marble floor as though searching for a hiding place for the shame rising within him. The organ faltered. The priest cleared his throat, uneasy. The air grew thick, as though the entire church had stopped breathing. Iris's vision blurred, not from tears, but from the sensation that she herself was fading beneath the weight of every stare. She heard nothing but the sound of her own heart breaking. They say heartbreak is pain, but for Iris, that moment was not pain. It was annihilation. Everything she had believed, every golden path laid before her vanished. For an instant she wanted to collapse where she stood. But her trembling legs chose differently to turn away. She spun quickly, her white veil flaring like a cloud, and walked, then ran. Her heels pounded against the carpet. The calls behind her, mother, father, family, guests, blurred into indistinct noise. The massive wooden doors burst open. Light from outside blazed in like a slap. The salty sea breeze struck her face, carrying the scent of seaweed and exhaust from the cobbled street. Cameras flashed furiously. Paparazzi had been waiting. Their questions pierced like arrows. Miss Iris, do you know where Nathaniel is? Were you abandoned at the altar? How do you feel right now? Iris gave no answer. She clutched her gown, lifted it high, and ran. Her heels slipped on the damp stone. At last she tore them off, leaving them behind in the street. Bare feet stung against the cold, rough ground, but that pain was nothing compared to the devastation clawing inside her. The wind lashed harder, tossing her loosened hair. She fled through the narrow seaside streets of Harborview, past silent old mansions watching her. A few passers-by stared half pity, half curiosity. Tears finally streamed down Iris's face. Their salt mingled with the sea's. Her breath grew ragged, chest aching. But she didn't stop. She ran as if the only escape from herself was forward. At last her legs gave way. She sank onto the stone steps by the roadside. Her wedding gown was smeared with dust and rainwater from earlier showers. She lifted her head, eyes vacant. The sounds around her, waves in the distance, car horns, the howl of the wind, merged into chaotic music. In that moment, Iris felt like a discarded doll, stranded in an unfamiliar city with nowhere to return. Then, from behind, a voice spoke, low, calm, tinged with irony, yet gentle. Today doesn't seem to have gone according to your plan, does it? Iris whipped around. By a plain black car stood a woman in a driver's uniform, tall and lean, cap tilted slightly. Behind dark glasses, Iris saw her own reflection, a deserted bride, barefoot, gown crumpled. For a heartbeat, Iris couldn't tell if she was laughing or crying. The stranger chewed gum casually, untouched by the chaos that had swallowed Iris at the church. "Who are you?" Iris's hoarse voice carried each word like a burden. The woman lifted her glasses, revealing gray eyes as cold as dawn mist over the sea. "My name is Alexandra Hayes, just a hired driver." She narrowed her gaze, surveying Iris. "But you don't look like an ordinary client. More like a runaway bride." Iris gave a dry, broken laugh, caught between tears and despair. "Need a ride? I have a car." Alexandra tilted her head toward the black sedan. Iris hesitated. Across the street, cameras still flashed, voices still shouted her name. Each light stabbed her eyes, nauseating. "Just get me out of here," she whispered. Alexandra asked no more. She opened the car door, a silent invitation. "Then get in. Otherwise they'll follow you all over Harborview." Iris clutched her gown and slipped inside. The cool leather and faint mint from Alexandra's gum struck her senses, but strangely it felt safer than anywhere she had just been. Alexandra slid behind the wheel, started the engine. Its soft hum was like a long sigh. The car pulled away, leaving behind the shouts and blinding flashes. Inside, only the sound of wind against the glass remained. Iris curled up, hands clenched. Her wedding gown scratched her skin with its lace, irritating. She tore off the veil, balled it up, and set it at her feet. Alexandra glanced at her in the rear view. "Want to talk or silence?" "Silence is better," Iris rasped. "Fine," Alexandra said, simply. Yet that simplicity gave Iris a breath of space. No pressure, no judgment. The car wound through small streets heading for the outskirts. Autumn maples blazed red and gold, leaves drifting down. Iris watched the scenery retreat, a strange feeling rising. Loss but also release. After a long quiet, Iris murmured, "Do you often pick up runaway brides like this?" Alexandra smirked, eyes on the road. "Not really, but today's an exception." Iris studied her. Dashboard light traced Alexandra's sharp cheekbones, her cold, resolute face. The way she gripped the wheel, steady, certain, made Iris feel less adrift. "Where are you taking me?" Iris asked. "Anywhere you don't want to return," Alexandra replied. "Do you have some place in mind?" Iris stayed silent. She had never imagined needing to escape. The mansion, the family, friends, all now strangers. "I don't know," she said at last. "As long as it's not Harborview." Alexandra nodded. No more questions. The car sped on, street lights streaking across its body. Night fell quickly. Twilight deepened. Sea salt and pine from roadside forests mingled on the wind. Iris leaned against the glass, eyes closed. Rain began, pattering softly on the windows. When the car stopped, Iris opened her eyes. Before her stood a wooden cabin by the sea, pines whispering behind the vast grey-wind sea before. Waves crashed, their salty breath thick in the air. "Where is this?" Iris asked softly. "A house I rent, not luxurious, but quiet." Alexandra shut off the engine. "If you need shelter, come in. If not, I'll drive on." "But the storm's coming." Iris looked at her tangled hair, soaked gown, scratched bare feet. She bit her lip. A part of her wanted to refuse, but Alexandra's gray eyes held a strange calm unshaken by anything. "All right," Iris whispered. Alexandra stepped out first, opening the door. The sea wind rushed in, biting cold, but carrying freedom. Iris placed her bare feet on damp sand, rain mixing with grains that stuck to her heels. The chill made her shiver, but reminded her she was still alive. Inside, the cabin smelled of pine wood and faint black tea, wind whistling through cracks. Soft yellow light glowed, unlike the harsh brilliance of the church. "You can stay here tonight," Alexandra said, evenly.
Don't worry.
"I'm not making you tomorrow's headlines. I don't even care who you are." Iris gave a sad smile. "Then you're the first today not to see me as a spectacle." Alexandra shrugged. I don't have time for plays. I like the truth. Iris sank onto the old sofa. Her damp gown chilled her body. Alexandra quietly fetched a thick wool blanket, handed it to her. The rough fabric was warm, so unlike the silks Iris always wore. In the small cabin, with rain pounding on the roof, Iris's heart eased for the first time since the altar. She didn't know what tomorrow held, or whose life she had stepped into. But here, with the scent of pine, and the roar of the sea, she felt free of the prison of eyes and expectations, and the stranger, Alexandra, cold, unreadable, was the one who had led her out of the chaos. Iris sat, long in silence on the linen sofa. The blanket warmed her shoulders, yet she still trembled, not only from her soaked dress, but from the raw wound of abandonment. Rain hammered the roof, sea winds howled through cracks, sharp with brine. Dust drifted in the dim yellow glow, a thin haze in the air. Alexandra went into the kitchen, where only rough shelves and a worn kettle stood. Iris heard water boiling, the clink of a spoon. Moments later, Alexandra returned, placing a steaming cup before her. Ginger. Iris looked up in surprise. Honey, ginger tea, Alexandra said flatly. You're wet from rain, drink something hot or you'll be feverish tomorrow. Iris wrapped her hands around the cup. Warmth spread from palms to arms, soothing. The spicy sweetness filled her throat. As she sipped, tears spilled unbidden. Something wrong? Alexandra asked, not crying, just enough to show attention. Iris shook her head, voice trembling. No, just it's been so long since I've had something ordinary like this. Alexandra said nothing. She leaned back, hands in pockets, gaze on the sea crashing against black rocks. Iris studied her. Damp dark hair clung to her temples, sharp features, grey eyes lit with resolve, every movement steady as one long used to independence. Iris realized her own habits, porcelain cups, leather chairs, attendants behind her were gone. No one here to dry her hair, change her dress, shield her from stares, and strangely that absence let her breathe. After a while, Alexandra opened a cupboard, took out a grey sweater, and soft cotton pants. No silk here. Wear these for now. Towels in the bathroom. Iris looked at the simple clothes, throat tight. Thank you, but I can't. Alexandra cut her off. Want to sleep in a wet gown? Cold words, but true. Iris nodded, took the clothes, and stepped into the small bathroom. It barely fit a shower and sink. The mirror fogged. Yellow light shining on rain still clinging to her face. Iris saw herself, makeup smeared, mascara streaked, hair in tangles, shoulders trembling. A stranger stared back. Hot water poured, lavender soap filling the air. She let it wash away makeup, suffocation, slipping into the loose grey clothes. She felt as though shedding part of her old self, silks, jewels, expectations never her own. When she emerged, Alexandra had prepared a small bed by the window. Plain sheets, worn pillows. You can sleep here, Alexandra said, not turning. I'll take the other room. Iris hesitated. Why are you helping me? This time, Alexandra met her gaze and those grey eyes shone something Iris couldn't read. Maybe because I know what it feels like to want to disappear. Iris fell silent. The words touched deep cracks in her heart. Outside, waves pounded, winds roared as though to sweep the cabin away. Iris lay down, pulled the blanket to her chest. Its coarse touch warmed her, her eyelids heavy. In fitful dreams, she saw again the grand church, the heavy organ, the prying eyes, the empty groom's chair. But through it all flickered grey eyes, Alexandra's, shining like an anchor in the storm. As Iris drifted fully into sleep, Alexandra sat alone in the kitchen, sipping bitter black coffee. She gazed out at the night sea, where darkness and waves merged. And within her a quiet question stirred, one she couldn't answer. Was the runaway bride's sudden appearance mere chance, or the beginning of something neither of them had foreseen? Morning by the sea. Iris woke up to the rhythmic sound from afar. The sea waves crashing against the rocky cliffs. Morning light slipped through the old wooden window frame, spilling into the room in pale golden streaks. A faint trace of sea salt lingered, raw and briny, brushing against her skin. She opened her eyes, taking a few seconds to realize where she was. No more high gold-gilded ceilings, no more heavy velvet curtains. Instead, there was a rough wooden ceiling, with tiny cracks and an old ceiling fan, creaking as it turned slowly. The oversized wool sweater on her still carried a faint lavender scent from the drawer. Iris pulled the blanket up to her chest, listening to the unfamiliar sounds, the sharp cries of seagulls, the wind whipping against the window panes, the bubbling of a kettle boiling somewhere in the kitchen. For a moment, Iris wanted to bury her head into the pillow, to pretend it was all just a dream. But the taste of ginger tea still lingered in her throat, and the cold memory of yesterday's soaked wedding dress was fresh in her mind. This wasn't a dream. She sat up, stepping barefoot onto the wooden floor. The planks were icy, dampened by the night sea air. Iris shivered, remembering the thick sheep rugs under her feet at home. The difference was too stark, as if she had stepped into another world. The kitchen door creaked open. Alexandra entered, carrying a small basket filled with seashells and a few sprigs of sea herbs. She wore a loose shirt, faded jeans, her hair carelessly tied at the nape. The morning light caught her face, highlighting her cold gray eyes. "You're awake?" Alexandra asked, her voice low and steady. Iris nodded, hesitating. "I thank you for letting me stay last night." Alexandra set the basket on the table, shrugged. "It's nothing, I'm not used to guests, but you look like you needed a place to breathe." Iris's cheeks flushed. No one had ever said that to her before. Her whole life, people only told her she needed to behave, to shine, to please, but never to breathe. Alexandra poured black coffee into 2 chipped porcelain mugs. The bitter roasted aroma filled the small kitchen. Iris took one, sipping carefully. The sharp bitterness made her not used to it. Alexandra glanced at her, the corner of her mouth twitching. "At home, coffee always has sugar and milk." Iris admitted. "Not here," Alexandra replied. "You'll have to get used to it." Iris stayed quiet. The words sounded like a command, but strangely, they made her feel like a child, being forced to grow up. After a simple breakfast of toasted bread and blueberries picked from the back garden, Iris stepped out onto the porch. The chilly morning air brushed her skin, carrying the scent of salt and sand. The ocean stretched endlessly before her, waves foaming white. Her eyes stung, not from sadness, but from the salty wind. "Do you plan on going back?" Alexandra stood beside her, hands in her pockets, eyes still on the sea. Iris hesitated. "Back where?" "The church, your family, the world you just ran away from." Iris's heart tightened. Images of her parents, the guests' contemptuous stares, the empty spot where Nathaniel should have stood, all of it cut like knives. "I don't know," Iris whispered. "If I go back, I'll have to live as if yesterday never happened. But if I don't know where I'll go." Alexandra turned to her. In those gray eyes, there was no pity, only clarity. "Not knowing where to go might be good, because at least you'll get to choose." Iris froze. Those words rang so clearly, choking her up. To choose, something she had never been allowed to do in her life. The silence deepened, filled only by the sound of waves. Iris's nose burned, tears welling. This time she didn't force them back. She let them fall, mingling with the salt of the sea breeze. Alexandra didn't offer a handkerchief, didn't comfort, didn't look away. She simply stood there, a quiet witness to the breaking. After a while, Alexandra spoke calmly. "There aren't many comforts here. If you want to stay for a few days, you'll have to get used to fending for yourself. I don't have the habit of serving anyone." Iris nodded faintly. Inside, a strange feeling spread, both fear and relief. For the first time, she wasn't forced to shine, nor shielded by anyone. It was just her and her own choice. She looked down at her hands, where her fingers still carried the faint scent of ginger tea from last night. Unconsciously, Iris whispered, "Maybe I'll try learning how to choose." Alexandra stayed silent, the corner of her lips lifting slightly, like the hint of a smile. Offshore, the waves kept breaking against the shore, echoing like the overture to something unnamed. The morning passed in silence. Iris wandered through the wooden house, her eyes taking in everything as if it belonged to another world. The walls were rough pine, darkened by salt air. A low bookshelf held only a few faded hardcovers stacked beside an oil lamp. On the table, instead of fresh flowers in crystal vase, there was a glass jar with a few pale purple weeds, hastily picked from the roadside. Iris reached out, brushing the thin petals, cold and fragile. The feeling was unlike the meticulously arranged bouquets at her home. Here, nothing was perfect, yet everything felt alive, breathing with the air. Alexandra appeared in a rolled-up white shirt, carrying a bucket of water. She set it down heavily, droplets splashing. The kitchen floors wet from last night's rain. Needs mopping. Iris flinched. She had never held a mop in her life. At the Caldwell estate, everything was done by staff. But Alexandra's grey eyes left no room for refusal. "But I don't know how to mop," Iris murmured. Alexandra raised a brow, the corner of her mouth curling into a half-smile. "It's not hard, you just drag it back and forth, like drawing long lines on the ground." Iris bit her lip. It sounded simple, but when she placed the mop down, her hands trembled, movement stiff. The mop was heavy, the soaked head dripping water across the floor. Instead of cleaning, the streaks only spread. Alexandra stood with arms crossed, watching, not interfering. Iris grew more flustered. Sweat beaded on her forehead, her throat tightening. "At home, I've never had to do this," Iris blurted, shame and defiance mingling. Alexandra shrugged. "Well, now you're learning." But Iris looked up, eyes glistening. "Could you help me just a little?" Alexandra stepped closer, resting her hand lightly yet firmly on the mop handle. "Iris, if I do it for you, you'll never learn. And believe me, one day knowing how to mop a floor will be worth more than wearing the finest wedding dress." The words cut sharp, but not painfully, only slicing away the silk that had always wrapped Iris. She fell silent, gripping the wooden handle tighter, and tried again. This time, her movements were slower, steadier. The floor gradually dried, gleaming under sunlight from the window. Iris exhaled, exhausted, but a small pride bloomed within her. Alexandra gave a slight nod, like an acknowledgement. "All right, that's the first step." Iris sat down, her hands red from holding the wood too tightly. Hands once used only to wear diamonds and hold crystal glasses, now smelled of detergent, sharp and dry. She looked at Alexandra, both surprised and bewildered. "Do you always make people do everything themselves?" "No, only those who are used to having others do it for them." Alexandra poured more coffee, her tone calm. "Here, I don't want anyone thinking they're a guest. If you stay, you live with me." Iris lowered her gaze, silent. In her mind, she saw herself pulled down from the grand chair in Caldwell's mansion, thrust onto a damp wooden floor, forced to begin from nothing. By noon, Alexandra brought out a bag of fresh fish. "We'll have grilled fish." Iris's eyes widened. "Fresh fish, meaning we have to clean it first." Alexandra placed a knife on the board, its steel glinting cold. "Do you want to try?" Iris shook her head rapidly, paling at the cloudy fish eyes. "I can't. At home, fish always came served on silver platters." Alexandra said nothing, working in silence. The blade slid, scales scattering, the stench strong and pungent. Iris turned away, hand over her nose. Yet in that quiet, she realized, Alexandra wasn't disgusted, didn't flinch, didn't see it as filth. She did it like part of life, like breathing. When smoke rose, the scent of grilled fish mingled with sea herbs, filling the small house. Iris tasted the first bite. The flesh was tender and sweet, the skin crisp and charred, the salt blending with herbs. She closed her eyes, letting the flavor spread. "Better than in a restaurant," she murmured. Alexandra glanced at her, lips curving faintly. "Because you eat it, knowing where it came from, knowing your own hands touched it." Iris sat still. In that moment, she realized there were luxuries money couldn't buy. The smoke lingering in her hair, the salt on her fingertips, the feeling of sitting in a small kitchen with waves outside, free from the golden cage. As afternoon faded into sunset, Iris stood on the porch, breathing deeply the salty air. She turned to Alexandra softly, saying, "I never thought one day mopping floors and eating grilled fish could feel like freedom." Alexandra didn't answer right away. She lit a cigarette, the smoke curling into the sea wind. Her grey eyes glimmered slightly, but her voice remained cool. "You don't know yet, Iris. Real freedom is much harder." Night fell quickly on Harborview's coast. The sky deepened, a few stars scattered, most hidden by thick clouds. The sea wind howled, its chill seeping through wooden cracks. Inside the small house, the lamp glowed warm. Seashells Alexandra had gathered lay beside an old book on the table. Iris curled on the sofa, wrapped in a wool blanket, watching the flames crackle in the small iron stove. The smoky scent of wood mingled with sea salt, cloaking the room in warmth. Alexandra sat across, a glass of amber whiskey in hand. She swirled it, the light dancing in the liquid. Iris sipped herbal tea, sweetness fading gently on her tongue. "You've been quiet all day." Her voice low. Usually, someone who runs out on a wedding screams or cries till they faint. Iris gave a faint laugh, eyes on the sparks in the stove. "Maybe I've run out of tears." "No one runs out of tears," Alexandra countered softly. "You just haven't found something strong enough to make you cry." The words sent a shiver through Iris. A small wave rose inside her, brushing the cracks she tried to hide. "What about you?" Iris turned, eyes on Alexandra's face in the glow. "Have you ever cried for something?" Alexandra set her glass down, leaning back. Her grey eyes grew distant, as if looking past the wooden walls into memory. "Once," she said quietly, "when the one I loved chose to leave. Not because love was gone, but because I couldn't give her a safe life." Silence fell. Iris clutched her teacup, the heat pressing into her palms. An unexpected ache of sympathy swelled within her. "I'm sorry," Iris whispered. "Don't apologize for what you didn't cause." Alexandra shrugged, though her tone sank. "I learned not to let myself cry over the same thing twice. Since then, I chose to live like this, independent, needing no one needing me." Iris studied her face, strong, sharp lines. But in this moment, at the corners of Alexandra's eyes, Iris saw a blur. The mark of pain never fully gone. She inhaled, then softly said, "I've never been allowed to choose who I love." "Never?" Alexandra turned, grey eyes sharpening with attention. "My family, the Caldwells, everything was bound by tradition." Iris went on, her voice tight. "I was raised to be an image, not a person. I was just a promise, an arranged marriage, a union of power." She stopped, tears sliding down her cheeks. The salt touched her lips, mixing with tea. She didn't wipe them away. "I thought if Nathaniel betrayed me after marriage, I would endure. But leaving me before God, before everyone, I became a joke." And the worst part is, Iris swallowed hard. "A part of me felt relieved because at least I didn't have to walk into that life already written for me." Alexandra stayed still, not interrupting. She poured more whiskey slowly, eyes fixed on Iris. When Iris looked up, their gazes locked, the firelight exposing unspoken truths. Then Alexandra said slowly, "Maybe that nightmare was your first chance to live real." Iris trembled as if Alexandra had touched her deepest fear. The fire crackled outside. The waves kept pounding, steady, relentless. Iris set down her cup, fingers lacing together. Iris's voice wavered. "Do you think two women can find happiness together?" The room stilled. Alexandra didn't answer at once. She lifted her glass, took a slow sip, then set it down. Her grey eyes held Iris's unflinching. "If they're brave enough to choose each other," Alexandra whispered, "then yes." Iris's heart pounded, her breath caught, hands clenched until pale. Those words, simple as they were, felt like a spark igniting a candle long waiting inside her. They fell into silence, but it wasn't heavy.
It was warm, where Iris could hear her heartbeat, where Alexandra heard the ocean winds, and both sat in the small wooden house by the vast sea, knowing they had just shared the first fragments of themselves. That night, Iris didn't sleep right away. Lying in the small bed, she listened to the waves outside. The scent of pine, of smoke, of salt mingled together. And in her mind, Alexandra's words echoed endlessly. If they're brave enough to choose each other, then yes, step outside. That morning, Harborview's sky was startlingly clear. After days of steady rain, the first rays of sunlight fell across the sea, making the waves shimmer, as though plated with silver. The cry of seagulls echoed lively, heralding a new day. Iris stood on the porch, breathing deeply. The chilly sea wind seeped into her chest, carrying the pungent scent of salt and seaweed. Her skin prickled, yet inside she felt strangely at ease. Alexandra stepped out, wearing worn-down leather shoes, old jeans, and a long coat. In her hand was a hastily written list. "We need to go to the market. The fridge is nearly empty." Iris faltered slightly. The market. Yes, Alexandra shrugged. People usually eat every day, and to eat you have to buy food. Since childhood, she had never set foot in a supermarket or local market. Groceries, flowers, clothes, everything was always prepared for her. The thought of going to a market with a net bag in hand felt both foreign and intriguing. Alexandra glanced at her, the corner of her mouth lifting faintly. "If you want to keep eating grilled fish and bread, you'd better come with me." They drove the old sedan into town. The narrow road was shaded by maple trees, yellow leaves crunching beneath the tires. Iris leaned her head against the window, her eyes tracing the charming red brick houses, the porches adorned with fluttering American flags. The aroma of pastries, from a roadside bakery, drifted through the air, making her stomach rumble. The local market appeared like a vivid painting. Crowded stalls burst with color, the bright red of tomatoes, the lush green of vegetables, the golden yellow of corn, the deep purple of grapes. Vendors chattered cheerfully. Knives clattered, children darted about laughing. Iris froze, overwhelmed. The earthy smell, the scent of fresh produce, the fishy tang, the aroma of baked goods, all mingled thick in the air, chaotic but alive. This was nothing like the luxurious spotless shops that felt more like showrooms, where she used to go with her mother. Alexandra walked calmly, basket in hand, choosing items with certainty. She exchanged a few words with some vendors, her tone familiar. They even called her by another name. Miss Hayes, Iris noticed. The looks directed at Alexandra weren't the looks given to casual customers. They carried respect. People bowed their heads, smiled warmly, slipped in extra herbs without charging. A burly fishmonger clapped Alexandra on the shoulder, laughing loudly. "Haven't seen you in ages. Heard you've been busy, huh?" Alexandra only replied with a nod before taking the bag of fish.
Iris stood beside her, eyes wide. Alexandra offered no explanation, revealed nothing more. But it was clear this woman was not simply the quiet driver by the sea she had claimed to be. At the vegetable stall, Iris accidentally dropped an apple. It rolled off the stand all the way to someone's feet. Flushed with embarrassment, she bent to pick it up, but Alexandra was quicker. She picked up the apple, wiped it lightly against her coat, and placed it back in Iris's hand. "Hold tighter," Alexandra said softly, her grey eyes brushing over her with such steady depth that Iris's heart skipped. "Thank you," Iris murmured, her fingertips still burned with the warmth left from Alexandra's touch on the apple. By the time they finished the market, Alexandra's basket was brimming with vegetables, fish, meat, and a few small pastries. As they walked, Iris stole glances at her. Every gesture was sure, every word brief yet weighted. No one treated Alexandra like an ordinary person. Inside Iris, a pressing question stirred. Who exactly was Alexandra Hayes? When they left the market, the day was already waning. Sunlight bathed the town in gold, the faint scent of sweets lingering in the air. Alexandra opened the car, placing the basket into the trunk. Iris hesitated, then gathered her courage. People seem to really respect you. Why is that? Alexandra paused, her grey eyes locking onto Iris's. For a fleeting moment, Iris felt as if she were being pulled into a boundless sea. There are things better left unknown for now, Alexandra said quietly. Then she shut the trunk firmly. Iris stayed silent, the whole drive back. In her ears, beyond the sound of the engine and the sea, only that sentence echoed. By the time they reached the wooden house, the sun had set, the sky deep into violet. The wind grew harsher. Iris stepped out of the car, holding the small bag of pastries, her heart both tangled and strangely stirred. One thing she knew for certain, Alexandra Hayes was far from simple, and it was that very mystery that made Iris want to know more. To step into that world, even if only a little. That night, the wooden house lay quiet. The sound of waves crashing against the rocky shore mixed with the howl of wind seeping through the cracks. In the living room, a lamp cast a warm golden glow, enough for Iris to write in a notebook Alexandra had handed her earlier, when she saw her searching for paper. The first page was blank. Iris hesitated for a moment, then put pen to paper. Day 3. This wooden house is unlike any place I've lived. Each wave feels like a reminder that I have escaped, yet also that I am drifting. I don't know where the future will take me, but I know at least I am no longer standing beneath the blinding lights of that altar. She stopped, her fingers tightening around the pen. The image of Alexandra in the market that morning came back. The way people addressed her, the respectful glances, the mystery in her faint smile. Iris wrote on, "The woman named Alexandra Hayes is not what I thought. She speaks little, but each word strikes deep. I find myself wanting to hear more, to know more. Why does she live alone, apart? Why do her eyes hold both hardness and something else, something I dare not yet name?" Iris set down the pen, her palms damp with sweat. A strange feeling stirred inside her, trembling, yearning. The kitchen door creaked open. Alexandra stepped out, a glass of whiskey in hand, her hair loose, a few strands falling against her cheek. She stopped, her eyes resting on Iris bent over the notebook. "What are you writing?" Alexandra asked, her voice low. Iris startled quickly, shutting the notebook. "Nothing, just a few lines." Alexandra sat across from her, setting the glass on the table. "A diary? It's been a long time since I've written. I fear the things I write might become true." Iris looked up, her eyes bright under the lamp. "But if you don't write, how can you keep what you're afraid to forget?" Their eyes met. In that instant, Iris felt the space between them shrink. The small room, the sound of waves outside, the scent of wood smoke from the stove, all folded into one scene where only the two of them remained, quietly reflecting each other. Alexandra leaned an elbow on the chair, tilting slightly toward her. "So, what is it you're afraid to forget?" The question caught Iris in her throat. She clutched the notebook tighter, her fingers trembling, her heart pounded so hard she feared Alexandra could hear it. Iris stammered, "I'm afraid to forget this feeling." "What feeling?" Alexandra pressed gently. Iris drew a deep breath, her eyes brimming. "The feeling of being alive, of breathing, of being beside someone who doesn't demand I be perfect." Alexandra stayed silent. For a brief moment, her grey eyes softened, a flicker of light passing through. The air thickened. Iris could smell the faint whiskey on Alexandra's breath, the smoke lingering on her coat, and the warmth radiating from her body. Iris's hand crept onto the table, trembling. Alexandra glanced down, then slowly laid her own hand over it. Her skin was warm, her hand broad and steady. That light touch shot a current down Iris's spine. Her breath grew uneven. Their eyes met again. For a heartbeat, Iris felt the world vanish, leaving only her pulse, the sound of waves, and those grey eyes drawing her closer. Alexandra leaned in, the distance narrowing to a single breath. Iris felt her lips so near, warm, carrying the mingled scent of whiskey and sea salt. But just before the space disappeared, Alexandra stopped. She withdrew her hand slowly, her gaze cooling as though erecting an invisible wall. "Iris," Alexandra said softly, her voice low, Don't look for in me what you're not ready to face. Iris froze, her heart clenched, stung with disappointment and pain. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. Alexandra rose, lifted her glass, and headed for her room. Before the door closed, she added, "Sleep. Tomorrow will be a long day." The room sank back into silence, save for the waves crashing outside. Iris sat motionless, the notebook still in her hand, its page unfinished. Tears welled, blurring the ink. She scrolled one last trembling line. "Today I nearly found the thing I've never dared to name." Iris lay restless nearly all night. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw Alexandra's warm hand over hers, those grey eyes stopping just short of erasing the distance. The ache of incompletion gnawed at her, sweet and bitter, as though she had stood before a door, but lacked the courage to step through. At dawn, pale light spilled into the wooden house. Iris stepped onto the porch, the early wind biting cold against her face, sharp with sea salt. Below, waves pounded the rocks, white foam surging as if to swallow the shore. Alexandra was already outside, leaning on the railing. A cigarette burned between her fingers, smoke curling into the wind before vanishing. Her tall frame in a heavy coat stood against the sea, gaze fixed far out. Iris approached hesitantly. "How long have you been up?" "Before sunrise." Alexandra didn't turn. Her voice even. "I'm used to it, sleep doesn't help much." Iris stood beside her in silence for a while. The waves filled the gap. At last she gathered her courage. "Last night, why did you stop?" Alexandra turned, her grey eyes locking onto Iris. In that moment, Iris felt the weight of something unnameable. "Because I know," Alexandra said slowly. "Once that line is crossed, there's no going back, and I'm not sure you're ready to risk everything." Iris swallowed hard, turmoil rising. "You think I'm afraid?" "No," Alexandra replied, her eyes softening slightly. "I think you don't yet fully know yourself. You were abandoned at the altar, lost both your family and your place in society. I don't want to be a refuge you'll regret by morning." The words cut deep, yet also healed in their bitterness. Iris stayed silent, fingers twisting together as the wind howled around her. Alexandra took a final drag, then stubbed out the cigarette. She leaned her elbow on the railing, eyes distant. "I once made a mistake, just once, but enough that I'll never repeat it." Iris's eyes lit with curiosity. "What mistake?" Alexandra was silent for a long time, only the waves replied. At last she spoke quietly. "I loved someone, a girl, but I wanted so badly to protect her that I turned love into chains. She left me. Since then, I swore never to bind anyone to me again." Her voice grew at the final words. Iris felt a pang in her chest. Part of her wanted to reach out to touch that rough-veined hand, but she restrained herself. "And she, where is she now?" Iris asked softly. Alexandra shook her head, her eyes sinking into the mist. "She chose another path, a proper life in the eyes of society. I chose to leave it all, to hide here." That was the price. Iris inhaled sharply, the cold stinging her face. Inside, sorrow mingled with fear. Fear that Alexandra's story was the shadow, waiting for her too, if she faltered, and turned back. They stood in silence, broken only by the sea and the creak of wood beneath their feet. Iris turned, looking into Alexandra's grey eyes. For the first time, she saw beyond the hardness, a loneliness, vast and deep, a chasm Alexandra had long learned to live with. "Miss Alexandra," Iris whispered, her voice trembling, "I don't want to disappear like she did." Alexandra stiffened, her lips pressing tight. Instead of answering, she only placed her hand on the railing, gripping it as if holding herself back from saying more. A strong gust blew past, making Iris shiver. Alexandra slowly slipped off her coat, and draped it over Iris's shoulders. The thick fabric carried warmth, laced with smoke and salt. "Go inside, the wind's cold," Alexandra murmured. "You have much to face. Don't let sickness break you before you even begin." Iris pulled the coat close, her heart racing. Alexandra's words were stern, but her gestures so tender,
they nearly brought Iris to tears. As she stepped back inside, Iris looked over her shoulder. Alexandra's tall figure remained alone before the sea, hair whipped by the wind, resolute, solitary. Inside, Iris, a faint resolve stirred. If Alexandra had chosen solitude, to flee her past, then she herself would be the one brave enough to step into that darkness to bring light once more. Storms arrive. The peaceful morning seemed to shatter the moment Iris saw the strange black car parked not far from the wooden house. It was early dawn, the sea still cloaked in thick fog. Iris stepped out onto the porch with a steaming cup of tea, intending to savor her familiar quiet. The sound of waves murmuring, the salt in the air, the faint scent of sea herbs drifting around the porch. But then her gaze froze, when she caught sight of a man leaning against the car, holding a phone pointed directly at the house. A camera, a long lens, the soft click echoed through the stillness. Iris's heart jolted. The teacup in her hand trembled, hot liquid splashing over the back of her hand. "What is it?" Alexandra appeared behind her, voice low and steady. She glanced out, and in an instant her grey eyes turned sharp as ice. "Reporter." Iris spun around horrified. "They found me." "Not hard to find," Alexandra replied curtly. She strode down the steps, movements firm, deliberate. Iris could see it in the set of her shoulders, the predatory strength in each stride, like a hunter closing in on an intruder. The man startled, then hurried into his car. The engine roared, gravel scattered under spinning wheels, and he disappeared down the foggy road. Alexandra returned, her eyes still cold. "They'll be back once they've caught the scent. Vultures never let go." Iris clenched her fists, chest tightening. The memory of that wedding day swarmed back. The blinding flashbulbs, the shouted questions, words like knives digging into raw wounds. "I can't face them again," Iris whispered. Alexandra set a steady hand on her shoulder. "Iris, running forever isn't the answer. But for now, we prepare by afternoon." The storm pressed harder. The landline phone, silent for as long as Iris had been here, suddenly rang non-stop. Iris hesitated, then picked up, only to hear her mother's voice, cold and commanding. "Iris Caldwell, where are you? The whole city is talking. Our family is a laughingstock. Do you have any idea what you've done?" Iris froze, biting her lip until she tasted blood. Each word slammed into her ears like a hammer. "You come back immediately. You owe this family an explanation. You owe society an apology. Don't make me use other means." "Other means? What do you mean?" Iris's voice shook. "You don't want to know." Margaret hissed through her teeth. "But remember this, the Caldwell honor matters more than anything." The sharp click of the receiver slammed into Iris's ears. She clutched the phone, collapsing into the chair as tears spilled unchecked. Alexandra stood in the doorway, silent. In the dimming light, her face seemed carved in stone, unreadable. But when Iris buried her face in her hands, Alexandra came forward, sat beside her, and laid a warm, steady hand against her back. "Your family will do everything to drag you back, but remember, Iris, only you get to choose." Iris lifted her head, eyes red and raw. "If I choose, do you think they'll ever forgive me?" Alexandra met her gaze, her voice firm. "No, they won't, but their forgiveness isn't as important as whether you can forgive yourself." The words broke Iris's dam. She wept openly, her sobs mingling with the crashing surf outside, as if a storm had torn loose within her. Alexandra said nothing more, just stayed by her side, her hand a steady anchor in the tempest. That night, the wooden house was cloaked in shadow. Moonlight shimmered silver across the sea, spilling through the window. Iris lay in bed, eyes wide open, chest tight. She knew now this refuge would never again be safe. The storm had come. There was no going back. 3 days after the reporter's appearance, whispers rippled through the once quiet harbor view. At the market, people no longer looked at Iris with curious unfamiliarity, but with mockery, even pity. News had traveled faster than the wind. Tabloids, TV and online feeds blared the same photos. Iris stepping out of Alexandra's car beneath the sensational headline, Iris Caldwell vanishes with mysterious female driver. A scandalous affair. Iris sat frozen on the sofa, phone shaking in her hand, her palms damp, her fingers ice cold. On the screen, a blurred, candid photo of Alexandra still captured her striking presence. Beneath it, bold red letters screamed, Alexandra Hayes, the woman who destroyed another family's happiness. Iris's breath caught. She clicked another article. The headline stabbed at her. Source claims Alexandra Hayes involved in Aurora City financial scandal, using beauty to manipulate. Her heart seized. At the bottom, Julian's name appeared, quoted. Iris is the woman I love, but she's being led astray by a dangerous figure. I only want to save her before it's too late. The phone slipped from her hand, shattering against the floor. Iris buried her face in her palms, tears spilling, not just shame, but rage burning hot. Julian, she whispered hoarsely. How dare he? Alexandra entered, grocery bag in hand. She set it on the table, eyes flicking to the shattered phone screen for a beat. Silence. Then she picked it up, her gaze meeting Iris's. I knew this day would come. Iris looked up, eyes red. What they're saying, is it true? The question slipped out before she could stop it. Guilt seared her instantly, but Alexandra didn't flare in anger. She only sighed, setting the phone down before sitting opposite her. Iris, Alexandra said softly, her voice low but steady. That man wants you to doubt me, and a part of you already does. Iris's heart pounded. I don't know what to believe anymore. Everything out there says you ruined families, that you did terrible things, and you believe it. Alexandra's grey eyes cut sharp as steel. Iris flinched. I don't know. The silence was heavy. Outside the sea, roared against the rocks. A furious, endless voice. Alexandra leaned back, elbows resting on her knees, gaze fixed. I won't deny my past held mistakes, but not the lies they've spun. I didn't tear apart a family. I didn't trade beauty for power. Julian knows the truth. He's weaving this story to protect his honor by tearing me down. Iris clenched her fists, guilt clawing through her chest. Tears streamed hot and fast. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have doubted you. Alexandra reached across, tilting Iris's chin until their eyes locked. Don't apologize. Doubt is human instinct. But if you want to stand beside me, you must learn to trust what you feel, not what the world screams. Iris's breath hitched. The warmth of Alexandra's hand steadied her, firm yet gentle. In those storm-gray eyes, a secret swirled, but so did a light that made Iris want to believe. Julian won't stop, Alexandra continued, voice measured. He'll keep slandering me, keep trying to drag you back, and your family will side with him. It's the only way they can protect their honor. Iris sobbed, broken. Then what do I do? Alexandra released her chin, leaning back, eyes drifting past the wooden walls to the sea beyond. You grow stronger, you learn to stand on your own, or else the storm will swallow you whole. Iris wiped her cheeks, the weight in her chest pierced by a faint glimmer of hope. That night, sleep eluded her. Each time she closed her eyes, Julian's smirking face from the headlines loomed. Self-proclaimed savior. But against it burned Alexandra's grey eyes, sharp yet gentle, the only refuge in the storm. Iris opened her journal, under the flickering yellow lamp, and wrote, They say she's dangerous, but the most dangerous thing for me is losing the peace I feel beside her. By weekend, Harborview's annual autumn festival filled the streets with flags and laughter. The scent of baked apples hung thick, drums beat, children's laughter wore through the crowd, painting an illusion of peace. Iris stood before the mirror, fingers trembling as she adjusted her hair. Cream-cold sweater, navy scarf around her neck. Simple, yet her heart hammered wildly. You sure about this? Alexandra asked from the doorway, calm but watchful in her long grey coat. Collar turned up, grey eyes wary. Iris nodded. I can't hide forever. They've said too much. I want at least to face them. Alexandra studied her for a long moment, then nodded. All right, but whatever happens, stay by me. I won't let anyone touch you. The road to the square teemed with people. Country music drifted through the air, mingling with roasted corn, caramel, and dry hay. Iris inhaled deeply, steadying herself. But as soon as she and Alexandra appeared, the crowd faltered. Dozens of eyes turned, sharp with judgment, curiosity, disdain, whispers that buzzed like a hive. That's her, the heiress who ran away with another woman. Shameful. Iris's heart seized, palms slick, her feet felt rooted. Then Alexandra's hand closed over hers, firm, warm, guiding her forward. They walked through the weight of stairs, heads held high. Iris heard her own heels, striking the cobblestones, each step a defiance. A cluster of middle-aged women by the apple stand sneered. One spoke, voice dripping contempt. Caldwell, I thought you had more dignity than this. Iris froze, blood rushing hot to her cheeks. Before she could reply, Alexandra stopped. She turned, her grey eyes cutting like frost, her voice low but resounding. Dignity isn't something others define. It's how one chooses to live truthfully. The air stilled, the woman faltered, face flushed, others dropped their gazes, unable to hold Alexandra's stare. Iris gripped Alexandra's hand tighter, throat closing. In that moment, she felt shielded, protected, but also knew that if she let Alexandra carry it all, she would forever remain in shadow. As they neared the main stage where festival judges prepared to announce the pie contest winner, Iris suddenly halted. Alexandra turned, frowning. What is it? Iris drew a deep breath, heart pounding. Iris wanted to try. Try what? To stand before them, to say what I believe. Alexandra blinked. Then her eyes softened. She nodded. Then I'll be right behind you. Iris climbed the wooden platform, borrowing the microphone from a volunteer. The crowd hushed, every gaze upon her, her throat dry, hands trembling. But Alexandra's steady eyes below gave her courage. I know, Iris began, voice wavering. You all look at me with disappointment. I abandoned a wedding. I walked away from the path everyone called right. And now I stand here beside someone society won't accept. Murmurs rippled, but Iris lifted her chin and pressed on. But for the first time in my life, I feel alive. Not as the perfect daughter, not as a bargaining chip between families, but as a person who can feel, who can love. If that's a sin, then I'll bear it. The wind surged, golden leaves swirling across the square. Iris glanced down. Alexandra's eyes met hers. Grey depths lit with unspoken pride. Some in the crowd shook their heads, some turned away. But then an elderly man with silver hair tapped his cane against the ground and called out, "Brave girl." The square fell silent. Iris's eyes blurred with hot tears. Alexandra stepped up beside her, clasping her hand. No words were needed. Her presence was enough. Iris knew she had chosen right. Before the eyes of the town, they stood together, no longer hiding, no longer silent. Storm within the family. News of the autumn festival spread like wildfire. Local newspapers simultaneously published images of Iris holding a microphone, standing in the middle of the square, eyes brimming with tears, yet filled with determination. Beside her, Alexandra stood tall, her gaze proud. Those photos were shared across social networks. And after just one night, Iris Caldwell's name flooded national headlines. Caldwell heiress challenges family tradition. Iris Caldwell publicly sides with same-sex lover. The Caldwell family's honor disgraced as never before. Iris sat in the wooden house, staring at the rolling tide of news on the screen. Her heart pounded. Sweat dampened her palms. It felt as though the entire world was pointing its sharp edge at her. Alexandra sat opposite, silently lighting a cigarette. Thin smoke curled upward, her grey eyes cold but steady. I told you once you go public, there is no way back. Iris nodded faintly, her voice trembling. I know, but I didn't expect them to react this quickly. Just then, the landline rang, its shrill tone tearing the air apart. Iris hesitated, but Alexandra gave a slight nod. Answer it, you can't stay silent forever. Iris picked up, and her mother's voice, Margaret Caldwell, came through cold as steel. CL, you have defiled the Caldwell name. The whole lineage is being mocked. Do you still have the face to stand before your ancestors? Mother, Iris whispered, her voice shaking. I just want to live truthfully. I can't. Silence. Margaret snapped, her tone like a lash of the whip. Truthfully, you think living truthfully means destroying your family, betraying centuries of tradition. Do you know how furious your father is? The board of directors is holding an emergency meeting. They want to strip you of all inheritance rights. Iris froze, her body cold as ice. The inheritance, she had braced herself to lose it, but hearing it from her mother's mouth carved the wound deeper. Mother, Iris choked. I never wanted to fight the family, but I cannot marry Julian. I don't love him. Julian is the right choice, Margaret replied, each word heavy. He could have restored our honor, but not anymore. You have turned it into an indelible stain. If you have any conscience left, you will leave that woman and come back. Publicly apologize. Perhaps then we can salvage something. Tears streamed down Iris's hands. Mother, I'm sorry, but I cannot. The line was silent for a moment. Then Eleanor's voice came, cutting and cold. From this moment on, you are no longer a daughter of the Caldwells. The line went dead with a harsh click. Iris sat stunned, the phone slipping from her grasp clattering to the wooden floor. Alexandra stubbed out her cigarette, came to sit beside her. She offered no comfort, only laid a steady hand on Iris's shoulder. You chose, and this is the price. Iris broke into sobs, her whole body trembling. The pain cut like knives, but beneath it a strange fire stirred. A fragile sense of liberation, mingled with fear and freedom. That night, Iris couldn't sleep. She sat by the window, moonlight silvering her tear-stained face. Outside, the waves roared like a heavy heart. In a haze she saw Julian appear on television, his smug smile, his sanctimonious tone. I do not blame Iris. She has simply been misled. I will wait for her return, and I believe true love will triumph over delusion. Iris gripped the chair, nails digging into the wood. Her heart boiled. For the first time in her life, she wasn't only afraid, she was angry. He has no right to define me, she whispered. Alexandra, standing behind her, heard it quietly. She touched Iris's shoulder, her voice low and steady. Exactly, only you have the right to define yourself. Iris lifted her gaze, meeting those grey eyes. Amid the darkness and storm, she realized the true tempest had only just begun. The news exploded like a cyclone. Overnight, national television broadcast a leaked video. Grainy footage of Alexandra stepping out of a luxury Aurora City apartment with the caption running beneath Alexandra Hayes, the mysterious woman who destroyed a politician's family. Iris sat frozen before the screen. The video looped endlessly, each frame like a hammer blow. At the same time her phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Messages, calls, emails flooding in. Iris, do you even know who you're with? Get out before it's too late. You're disgracing yourself. Iris bit her lip, until she tasted blood. Her whole body shook. She could hear her heart pounding louder than the waves outside. Alexandra entered, saw the television, her gaze darkening. No panic, no haste, just a weary frown. She switched off the TV with a decisive press. It's fake, Alexandra said, her voice low, oddly calm. They fabricated it to bring me down. And Julian is behind it. Iris spun around, eyes red, but everyone out there will believe it. They don't care what's real, they just want something to throw stones. Alexandra stepped closer, her grey eyes locking on Iris with such force that Iris swallowed hard. Then you must learn to stand firm in the hailstorm. If not, they'll crush us both. Tears spilled hot down Iris's face. I can't bear them talking about you like this. Iris, her voice broke, trembling. I love you, Alexandra stilled, just for a moment. Then she sighed softly, her eyes gentling, a rare light glimmering within. She cuped Iris's face, brushing away a tear with her thumb. Iris, she whispered, husky, loving me means enduring the whole world against us. Are you ready for that? Iris gripped her hand tight, her tear-bright eyes blazing. I'm not ready, but I won't run anymore. In that instant, they held each other tight. Iris's body shook, in Alexandra's arms, feeling that steady heartbeat, the scent of smoke and sea salt, the warmth seeping through layers of fabric. And in that embrace, for the first time, Iris felt her own strength. That afternoon, they went out, not to hide, but to face things. Harborview's market was crowded. When Iris and Alexandra walked in, the air stiffened, eyes turned toward them, curious, disdainful, pitying. A fishmonger sneered. Look, the lady ruin maker has arrived. Laughter rippled from a few others. Iris froze, her palms cold, but Alexandra took her hand, squeezed gently. She strode straight to the stall, her grey eyes like steel. I came to buy fish, not sermons. If you don't want to sell, I'll go elsewhere. The man faltered, flustered. At last he wrapped the fish in newspaper and pushed it forward, silent. Watching, Iris felt pride surge, mixed with fear. She knew alone she would never be strong enough. But beside Alexandra, she was learning to walk, to lift her head. As they left, judgmental stares still followed. Yet Iris noticed among them a few others, quiet, sympathetic, like small rays of light, piercing the dark. That night, Iris opened her journal, her hand trembling as she wrote. They can weave as many lies as they wish, but I have decided, I will trust what I feel when I am with her. I have lost my family, my honor, but I will not lose my heart. The desk lamp cast her shadow long on the wall. Outside, the sea's waves whispered, reminding her the storm had only begun. But this time, Iris no longer trembled as before. Inside her a flame burned, stubborn, proud. That night, the wooden house lay in darkness. Only the flicker of an oil lamp cast Alexandra's shadow long and gaunt on the wall like a lurking ghost. Iris sat on the sofa, clutching her journal to her chest, watching Alexandra's every slow movement. Alexandra sat by the fireplace, a glass of whiskey on the wooden table, smoke curling around her. Her grey eyes were heavy with thought, so deep Iris felt that if she fell into them, she would never find her way back. Iris.
Alexandra's husky voice broke the silence, slow and deliberate. I need to tell you something. If I don't, those fabrications will keep tearing at the truth, and you will be swept away. Iris gripped the journal, her heartbeat pounding. What is it? Alexandra leaned back, her gaze fixed on the dancing flames. I once loved a married woman. Yes, that much is true, but not in the way the papers tell it. Iris's breath caught, her chest tightening. She was married. Alexandra nodded. An arranged marriage, no love, only duty and power. She came to me seeking escape, and I foolishly believed my love could save her. Her voice broke. She lifted the whiskey, downed it in one swallow as though trying to drown the old pain. When it all came out, they didn't punish her. They punished me. I was branded a home wrecker, a thief, a disgrace. She chose to return to preserve her honor, and I was left with darkness and shame. Iris went still, her chest constricting. Alexandra, so strong, so unyielding, now appeared fragile, shattered. So what Julian says isn't entirely false. Iris whispered. Alexandra turned, her eyes sharp as knives. The difference is this. I never forced anyone. I loved the wrong person in the wrong place, but it was love, not calculation. Julian twisted into a weapon to destroy me. Iris covered her mouth, tears spilling, echoes of her mother, of society, of cruel judgment pounded in her head. Yet alongside them, another truth rose louder. The love Alexandra described, wrong time, wrong place, was still real love. Alexandra, Iris murmured through tears. You bore all that alone. Alexandra gave a bitter smile. When the world turns its back, there is no one left to share it with. I chose silence, thinking it would preserve a shred of dignity. Iris sobbed. She rushed forward, kneeling before Alexandra, wrapping her arms around her. That sturdy chest quivered for a heartbeat. Then strong hands slowly enclosed Iris, holding her tight. "Not alone anymore," Iris whispered. "Broken but firm. You don't have to carry it all alone anymore." Alexandra closed her eyes, her breath heavy. For a fleeting moment, those strong shoulders seemed to collapse, revealing another self. Wounded, vulnerable, yet more real than ever. The next day, Alexandra did what Iris never expected. She contacted a trustworthy reporter in Aurora City, one who owed her a favor. "I'll tell the truth," Alexandra told Iris, her tone calm. "If they want to smear me, then let me speak it myself instead of letting them twist it." Iris's eyes widened with worry. "But if you do, you'll suffer all the judgment again." Alexandra looked at her steady. "Iris, sometimes the truth, however painful, frees more than lies. I've hidden too long, but if I want to walk beside you, I must stand upright with nothing to conceal." Iris's hands trembled as she gripped hers. "If you do this, I'll be right there. I promise." 3 days later, the interview appeared in a major paper, headline Alexandra Hayes, "The Truth Behind the Accusations." In it, Alexandra laid out her past, the wrong love, the downfall, the years in shadow. She didn't excuse, didn't dodge. She spoke with plain honesty. Society was shaken, some grew angrier, branding her shameless, but others began to shift their view. At least they saw a real person, not a puppet of rumors. Iris read the article, tears streaming, each word cut her heart, yet at the same time it lifted a weight. Alexandra no longer hid, and Iris knew from now on they would carry it together. That evening, Iris sat with Alexandra by the fire, her head resting on her shoulder. Outside, the waves still roared, the storm of public opinion still raged. But in those arms, Iris understood one truth. Real love is not about running, it is about daring to stand in the heart of the storm, the shadow of a former enemy. The wooden house was silent today. Alexandra sat at the dining table, the morning paper still spread open before her. On the front page, her photo filled half the space, the headline bold and stark, "Alexandra Hayes, The Truth and the Wound." The interview spread quickly. Some praised her honesty, others condemned her even more harshly. But at least Alexandra's voice had been heard. No longer just slander and lies. Iris poured 2 cups of hot tea, the scent of mint drifting softly through the air, trying to steady her nerves. Yet inside, a heavy sense of foreboding crept in. The phone rang, not the old landline, but Iris's cell phone, the one she kept for rare calls. The name flashing on the screen made her chest tighten. "Father." Iris looked at Alexandra. She gave a slight nod, her grey eyes unwavering. Iris inhaled deeply, then picked up. Iris, her father's voice, struck deep and heavy as a hammer. "Come home." Immediately Iris trembled. "Father, I can't." Silence. He barked. "You've done enough to disgrace this family. Your mother is in collapse, crying herself unconscious. The board is demanding my resignation. How much more destruction do you intend?" Tears welled in Iris's eyes. His words cut like blades. "If you don't return, you'll regret it. Julian has promised to help us fix this. You must stand beside him." "Not that woman." Iris clutched the phone. "Father, I don't love Julian, I can't." "You think love matters more than honor," he roared. "If you refuse, I'll release another video. This time, not just a smear. Alexandra, I'll drag your name into the mud. You'll have no place left in the society." Iris froze, blood turning to ice. "Father, you can't do that." "I can, and I will if you defy me. You have 2 days to decide." The line went dead. Iris dropped the phone, her whole body shaking, tears flooding, bitter on her tongue. Alexandra rose, came to her side, resting a firm hand on her shoulder. "They'll try everything. Julian and your family both. But Iris, remember, they only win if you surrender." Iris buried her face in her hands, sobbing, "But if they release something, I'll lose everything. They could destroy me completely." "And if you abandon me?" Alexandra asked softly. her deep voice steady in the suffocating room. What will you truly keep? Iris lifted her tear-reddened eyes, meeting the steel-gray gaze. Her heart wavered. The question cut deep, painful but true. That night, Iris dreamed a nightmare. She stood once more in the old wedding hall, camera flashes blinding, reporters shouting. Beside her, Julian gripped her hand, his false smile stretched tight. At the end of the aisle, Alexandra stood in the shadows, grey eyes sorrowful, silently turning away. Iris screamed, but no one heard. She woke drenched in sweat, heart racing. Alexandra sat in the chair opposite, the golden lamp casting her tall shadow on the wall. She looked at Iris, eyes both stern and sorrowful. A nightmare? Alexandra asked softly. Iris nodded, choking back tears. I'm afraid of losing you. Alexandra was silent. A moment then rose, and sat at the bedside. Her rough hand brushed Iris's damp cheek. Iris, you may lose everything. Honor, family, status. But if you truly want to keep me, you must stand. Don't let them command your fear. Iris's breath trembled. But staring into those eyes, deep gray, resolute, full of faith, a spark ignited in her chest. Fragile but fierce. Alexandra, Iris whispered, voice shaking but clear. I won't let them take you from me, even if I face the whole world. Alexandra's lips curved into a weary, tender smile. She bent down, pressing a gentle kiss to Iris's forehead. Outside, the sea crashed against the rocks, the storm drawing closer. But in that small room, through fear and tears, Iris made her choice. She would not step back again. The next morning, an urgent message arrived for Iris. The Caldwells and Julian will hold a press conference at Aurora City Plaza. If you don't attend, they'll release the final video. Iris's hands shook as she read, chest constricting. Alexandra glanced at the note, her eyes darkening, though unsurprised. This is their last strike, Alexandra murmured, voice calm, unnervingly steady. They want you kneeling before the public. Iris clutched her head, sobbing. I'm scared, Alexandra. I'm scared they'll destroy you. Destroy us. Alexandra stepped close, lifting Iris's chin, forcing her to meet her unwavering grey gaze. Iris, they only win if you stay silent. But if you dare to speak, no matter the outcome, you have not lost. That day, Aurora City wore a cloak of tension. Outside the Plaza Hotel, hundreds of reporters crowded, camera flashes exploding like lightning. Security barriers buckled against the pressing crowd. Iris stepped out of a taxi, her legs trembling under the weight of pressure. A roar of noise burst forth. Iris, Iris, are you being deceived? Is it true? Alexandra Hayes destroyed another woman's family. Will you apologize to the Caldwells and end this affair? The questions pelted like hailstones, the flashes stabbing her eyes. Iris gasped, suffocated, trembling. But Alexandra's hand tightened around hers, strong, unwavering. Look forward. Keep walking, Alexandra whispered in her ear, her voice low, firm, cutting through the chaos. Inside the hall, the air was heavier still. On the front row sat Iris's parents, their faces cold as stone. Julian stood beside them, sleek in his black suit, his counterfeit smile plastered in place, cameras aimed, lights blazing. On the big screen behind, bold words appeared. The Caldwell family speaks on the scandal. The host's voice rang with theatrics. Then Julian stepped to the new podium, microphone in hand. I speak not as a businessman, he began, his tone falsely warm, but as a man who once loved Iris Caldwell. My heart breaks to see her misled by a dangerous woman. Alexandra Hayes, who once destroyed another's family, is now destroying Iris's life. Murmurs rippled through the hall. Julian inhaled, gesturing sharply. The screen lit up, playing a twisted Dr. Rid video. Alexandra spliced into a scene of arguing with a married woman, her words edited into damning accusations. This is the truth, Julian declared firmly. Iris is deceived, and I stand ready to welcome her back. Flashbulbs flared, reporters shouted over one another. Iris, your response. Do you deny it? Iris rose, her legs trembling, all eyes fixed upon her. Family press. Julian, millions watching live. Her head spun, chest tight. but Alexandra's hand pressed steady against her back. Iris inhaled deeply, lifted her chin, and stepped forward. Enough. Her voice shook, but rang clear. I am no longer anyone's puppet. I am not deceived, not misled. I chose Alexandra, because with her, I can finally live true. The hall erupted in chaos. Her parents' faces drained, furious. Julian shouted, Iris, you don't know what you're saying. Iris turned, tears gleaming, eyes blazing. I know better than ever. You never loved me, Julian. You only wanted to save your own pride. But I don't care about false honor anymore. A silence fell. Alexandra stepped beside Iris, her grey eyes sweeping the room like steel. You may slander me, you may crush me, but you will never divide us. The words rang like thunder. Flashbulbs flared again, but Iris no longer shook. She gripped Alexandra's hand, standing tall in the storm. The press conference ended in chaos. News spread like wildfire. Some raged, others cheered. But one fact was undeniable. Iris and Alexandra had faced the world, no longer hiding. That night, back at the wooden house, Iris sat on the porch, moonlight rippling over the sea. Tears fell, but not of fear, of release. Alexandra sat beside her, pouring a glass of wine, handing it over. They'll strike again, but now we stand together. Nothing can part us. Iris leaned against her shoulder, whispering, if this is a battlefield, then I choose to fight with you. Offshore, waves thundered like war drums. The storm had peaked, but in Alexandra's arms, Iris felt peace, unlike ever before. The morning after, the nation was shaken. Tech experts exposed Julian's videos as doctored. Headlines blazed. Evidence against Alexandra Hayes proven fake. Julian Price's dirty tricks exposed. Julian was summoned to an inquiry for falsifying evidence and spreading disinformation. His allies abandoned him, leaving him stranded in the storm. The Caldwells, proud for generations, faced public humiliation. Mr. Caldwell stepped down from the board. Margaret, in a rare interview, said nothing, her tired eyes stripped of pride. The world had shifted. At the seaside house, Iris sat on the porch, eyes on the horizon. The waves rolled steady, but today their sound was softer, like a sigh after the storm. She held her journal, its last page blank. Her hand trembled as she wrote, I lost my family, my honor, but found something greater, truth and love. Alexandra is not perfect, neither am I, but we chose each other, and that choice is ours. I will not run anymore. A hand rested on her shoulder. Iris looked up into familiar grey eyes. Alexandra sat beside her, weary but with a light shining within like a light house piercing the night. They'll keep talking, Alexandra murmured. Even years from now, my name may always trail scandal, but I don't care. What matters is I still have you. Iris clasped her hand, voice trembling yet firm. Not just still. Forever. Months later, in bustling Aurora City, a small but profound event took place. Together, Iris and Alexandra founded Project Phoenix, supporting women trapped in gilded prisons of forced marriage, societal judgment, or family control. At the launch, Iris stood at the podium, no longer trembling. Lavender drifted from bouquets on stage. The hall hushed. I was once a runaway bride, Iris began, her voice clear. I was once called my family's shame, but by running I found myself. Today, I want to tell women still in the shadows, you are not alone. We have the right to live true, to love true, no matter the cost. Thunderous applause filled the hall. Iris's eyes blurred with tears, but her heart was steady, strong. From the audience, Alexandra watched, her grey gaze fixed on Iris. In that moment, no words were needed. Both knew they had walked through the storm and reached the light. That night, back at the wooden house, the sea lay calm beneath the moon. Iris and Alexandra sat by the fire, hand in hand. The orange flames danced, casting their shadows on the wall, two figures blending into one. I think, Iris whispered, if not for that wedding, I might never have met you. Alexandra smiled, grey eyes glowing with rare tenderness. Sometimes we must fall hard to find the right path. Iris rested her head on her shoulder, closing her eyes. She heard Alexandra's steady heartbeat, smelled wood smoke and sea salt, felt warmth wrapping around her, and for the first time, the future no longer loomed dark,
but radiant, like a dawn rising. Outside, the waves lapped gently, a lullaby above, the stars sparkled, silent witnesses to a love that had survived the storm, and shone brighter than ever. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment to share your thoughts, and don't forget to follow for the next chapters.